What up, knitters? Welcome to episode 95 of the Knitty McPurly podcast. I am Devin Ventry, your host. You can find me online as Knitty McPurly over on Instagram. My website is knittymcpurly.com, and if you want to email me, I am devin@knittymcpurly.com. Hit subscribe, hit the like, the bell, all the stuff. That would be great. Thank you so much. Welcome to the podcast. The weather has been amazing these past few days. I'm feeling kind of amazing today in general. So sometimes I kind of have to psych myself up and get psyched up, but today I was already psyched. It was awesome. I've had a few questions about the retreat. This is my daughter's mug. Have I shown this one before? I think maybe I have. She's the writer. And she's a little bit violent. I had a few questions about the retreat, and I have had a few people who are completely paid, planning to come to the retreat. They've had things come up in their life and they have had to cancel. So I am moving on to my wait list. A few emails have gone out already. I sometimes, when I send an email out to someone on the wait list saying a spot is opened up, I don't hear anything back. And I don't know if that's because you saw it and you don't think you can make it. So you think, well, I'll just delete it, or you didn't see it at all because it went right into your spam folder and you're waiting to hear if you got off the wait list. If you're on the wait list and you're hoping to get a spot at the retreat, please go into your email program and put in my devin@knittymcpurly.com email address as one that is not spam. If you're getting my newsletters, you should be receiving all of my emails and you should be good to go. And if you get an email from me saying, do you want a spot at the retreat because you signed up, you're next on the wait list, please respond. Even if it's to say, no, I can't go, I don't want to go, I don't even like you anymore, whatever. Just respond so that I know that you got it and I can move right on to the next person. So I have also gotten questions from people who are new to the podcast, and they said, Devin, you talked about this retreat. What the heck is that? So I went ahead and I put back on my website a little tab at the bottom. Like if you scroll down that left-hand scroll bar at the very bottom, there's a tab called Retreat. And if you click there, you can just see the details of it. So even though the retreat is full, the wait list is closed because I have a lot of people on the wait list already. I will reopen it again if I need to, but I don't think I will have to. Anyway, because people were interested, and I just thought, it doesn't make sense for me to mention the retreat and you can't find any information about it online. So I put that back up there so that you can get on the website and look up the information if you want to. Just a refresher, the retreat that's coming up, it is Thursday, January 26th of 2023 through Sunday, January 29th. It is in Lake Junaluska, North Carolina. I have a podcast where I talk in detail about that, and that is episode 78. So if you're still interested and you're thinking, wow, maybe in the future, if Devin has more retreats, maybe I will want to go on those. If you want to look at episode 78, you can see, the details of what this one's going to be, because back in April, my husband and I took a trip down to Lake Junaluska to check it out, and it was amazing and great, and it's going to be awesome. I'm so excited. I keep hearing from people about it, and I'm doing all this behind the scenes stuff to get ready for it, and it's just so much fun. So that is that. There are about 30 people on the wait list. If you're on the wait list and you want to know what position you're in, feel free to send me an email, devin@knittymcpurly.com, and I will let you know. I have a spreadsheet and I keep track of all the stuff, so it's all there if you're interested. Follow my newsletter. You can sign up for that on my website. Click that and you'll get all of my newsletters. So if anything happens, like the waitlist opens back up, or there are more retreats coming up in the future, or there's a shop update or whatever it is, you can get all that information in your inbox through my newsletter. I don't send out very many. You know, it's a couple a month, I'd say, maybe one a week-ish on average. So I'm excited on sending out any. So, all right, folks, progress and shop news. My advent calendars are completely done. I'm just wrapping up the last bits of them, getting ready to ship those at the end of October. You can still go and pre-order one if you want to. Like I said, I made a lot, and I am fine with having leftovers, because just imagine how beautifully 25 mini skeins would look in like one bundle. Wouldn't it look amazing? And these colors, it's just gonna look so great. So if they all sell out, fabulous. If they don't, they're gonna be beautifully packaged and will still be available later. So whatever. Those will ship out end of October if you have already bought one. The biggest news in my progress is that I finished, I'm trying to show you the front, my Vesper sweater. There's the bottom. And you can see the sleeve. Last week I was wearing it with one finished sleeve. And now it is done. I don't even think I've put it on since I finished it, because I know it fits. I just had that one sleeve to finish. I really want to get out and have my daughter take some pictures, because I think that this sweater is going to model so well. I think the reason that this sweater was so much fun to knit is because of the stripes, because we've got fingering weight and mohair. And that was just the most fun combination ever. Now, you could knit this sweater all in one color. You could knit it all in mohair and still stripe it. You could knit it all in fingering weight and still stripe it. I was thinking how cool this would look in like a medium gray and black. That would be like a dress-up sweater. I love this sweater. I'm so, so happy about it. I need to get my photographer, AKA Gigi, out to take some pictures, because it's amazing. I'm so happy with it. I love the shape. I think I love everything about this sweater. I really want to cast on another one, because that's what I do. When I finish something I love, I want to cast on another one, but I'm going to fight the urge because I want to knit other things. But if you're interested in testing this sweater, I have not even begun to write the pattern for this. Right now, the Everywhere sweater is in testing, and there's so many other things going on right now that I haven't started writing this pattern yet. I don't know, how quickly that will go. It's pretty basic. But like I said, I don't know how quickly it will go. But if you are interested in test knitting, I keep a spreadsheet. You might notice that I like spreadsheets. I don't know why. It's kind of not in my personality. I'm your typical ENFP. Like, I'm just kind of like, ooh, squirrel. I'm always like, what's the newest thing? What's the latest thing? But I really do love spreadsheets. Maybe it's because I'm that way. And I know I can always look back and I have all the information there neatly organized. What was I talking about? Chemo brain. It's real, folks. It is real. And it's funny because I say that, but some of you message me and say, I didn't even have chemotherapy, and I have it too. I think it's just whatever. Getting older, our society where there's a million things going on. But anyway, I have a spreadsheet with all of the people who have ever signed up to test knit or sent me a message via the link on my website where you can sign up to be a test knitter, or sent me any other kind of message. They all come to my email box saying, I want to be a test knitter. I keep a spreadsheet of all those people, and every time I have a test knit, I will email all of you. Feel free to just ignore it if it's a test knit you're not interested in. Totally fine. But if you want to get on that list, you can sign up for that on my website, or you can just send me an email and tell me that you're interested, and I will put you down. Every now and then I do make a mistake. My Everywhere sweater test knit started on Friday, and I thought I had sent it out to everybody, but Amy, who I talked about a few podcasts ago, can't remember when it was, a couple podcasts ago, about being spotted with her Lay Terry shawl, she messaged me and she was like, were we still gonna do that? And I was like, yes. So I just forgot. Like I thought she was on my list, but she wasn't. So sometimes I do forget. Sometimes you send me a message, and if I don't respond, sometimes it's been buried. Sometimes I'm thinking of what to say. But if you want to send me another message and say, knock, knock, hello, respond to me, please. That's always fine. I always appreciate that because like I said, I am me, my ENFP with chemo brain. And I know you guys are all wonderful and patient. So anyway, I had a shop update last week. There were sweater quantities of yarn that went into the shop. They are still there. See, this is one of the occupational hazards of being a knitter is you just constantly have like fluff around you. There are still sweater quantities. I think I need a better picture. Like when you go to my kits and yarn section, you see this, and it looks like you have to choose from only pink yarn. I need a picture that has all of the colors in it because the yarn is organized by weight. Because I feel like that's how you would most like to search for yarn. Usually you're looking for a particular pattern or particular type of project. If you're doing a shawl or socks, you know, mostly you want to shop by yarn weight and type. I do have 2 non-superwash bases for you non-superwash lovers. Most of my yarn is superwash. But you know what you like, you know what you're looking for. If you click on that yarn type, when you get in there, you see all of the colors that are available all the time. Right now, I only have 6 up, but more are coming. So sweater quantities available. Sometimes I have them in stock and you'll be able to see that. If I don't, you can scroll down to the pre-order and you can pre-order however many you want. Typically, those ship out within a week. If it's longer than that, if you have a specific deadline, you can mention that in the little comment section. You can always reach out to me. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. You can always reach out. If you need anything, I'm here for you. Okay. Most exciting for me in the progress department is that I have started a new project. For the retreat, I wanted to have a pattern that was released first to the retreat attendees, and I want to include the yarn to make this project in the swag bag for the knitters. And I have been thinking about this for months, frankly. I reached out to my retreat attendees and said, what color do you guys like the most? Which of course, when you reach out to 90 people asking them their favorite color, you're going to get the spectrum. The most common answers were blue, pink, and purple. Those 3 were the most common, you know, these are the colors I like to knit the most. So I have not decided on a color yet. That is still rolling around in my mind. But yesterday I organized my thoughts on what the project will be, and I cast one on someone is at my door. Who could that be? Who is it? They don't want to fess up. Okay. So I cast one on in the Morel colorway, which is, these 3 colors, frankly, look amazing together, I think. We have Bougie. The light here is not showing a huge difference between Morel and Bougie, and there isn't a huge difference. This one has a little more variegation. It's a little more taupe, purple, whitish, pinkish, grayish. Whereas Bougie is just a straight up petal pink. This one was my most popular. This one is called Thistle. People like this one the most. Interesting. My personal favorite is Morel. Morel is my personal favorite, even though, like I said before, it's like trying to choose one of your children. How do you pick a favorite? You can't, because they're all so amazing in their own unique way. So I used the Morel to cast on this project, which is not going to be the final color, but because I haven't decided on the final color, I wanted to make one to see if I liked it and get gauge and all that sort of thing. So I'm working on that. And I got up this morning, I started it last night, and I didn't want to go to bed because I was working on it, and it was so much fun. I've been knitting a lot of basic stuff lately. You know, it's a lot of stockinette, and I love stockinette, especially when the yarn is the superstar, such as in this sweater. Sometimes the yarn is the superstar, and you need to not go crazy with pattern because you don't want to overpower what the yarn is doing. So I opted for something a little more exciting for this pattern. And I forgot, I woke up this morning. I started last night, didn't want to go to bed, woke up this morning, and we go to early mass, so I don't usually have time in the morning to like drink my coffee and think, but I did this morning. And I'm sitting there drinking my coffee and I look over and there it is. And I was like, oh, I forgot about this. I get to knit this today. I'm so excited. It is so much fun. Anyway, it's pure joy. It's a surprise project for my retreat attendees, which after the retreat is over, I will publish to my website and you'll be able to purchase. But first, the retreat attendees will get to do it at the retreat if they want with the yarn that I will be giving them if they want. So here's a little side note. I've been thinking I need to put my patterns on Etsy because patterns seem to do well there. And I have an Etsy shop, like Knitty McPurly has an Etsy shop, but there's nothing in it. Just because before I just had too many things going on and I couldn't do one more thing. But I'm at the point now where I think maybe I could. What do you think about that? Do you have any opinion about that? How often do you look for patterns on Etsy? Is that something that you do? The people who have their patterns on Etsy seem to do really well. So I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. I have a mini topic for this week. This is not my topic of the week. It's just a little mini topic. Because I was thinking about stitch markers because I started this project last night and it requires stitch markers. And so I'm going around gathering up stitch markers. And I have this little jar in my knitting drawer that has random things in it. And many of them are stitch markers. And many of them are other weird things that people put in there because they're like, oh, here's a jar of weird stuff. I'll just put this in there. So I thought, what do you do when you need a stitch marker? Now, ideally, I use my stitch marker necklace. My favorite stitch marker necklace is the Roxanne. It is the spinny one. And basically, if you're not sure, it's not full of stitch markers, but it just has these 3 little doors as you spin it. And it fits 6 small stitch markers. So ideally, when I'm like pulled together and I'm wearing a stitch marker necklace, I pull a stitch marker out of there. These are available on my website, by the way, along with a few other styles. But this is the Roxanne spinning one, and it comes in silver too. But frankly, sometimes I'm in my pajamas, and I do not wear a necklace with my pajamas. In fact, Gigi saw me. I'm wearing like jeans and it's a t-shirt. It's got fluffy sleeves, but it's a t-shirt. And I was still wearing my earrings from mass this morning. And Gigi was like, geez, what are you wearing, fancy pants? Jeans on a Sunday? It made me laugh. Anyway, everyone else came home and put their pajamas on. So I became dressed up. So when I'm wearing my pajamas, I'm not wearing a necklace. So what do you use when you're sitting on the couch and you've got your little, maybe your lap desk and your coffee or your tea and your yarn is around you, maybe there's an animal there and you just do not want to get up? What do you do? If you have like a knitting basket or a drawer or something nearby, you might have stitch markers in there, but sometimes you're just out of luck. So I thought, what do I do? What have I done in these situations? I have a lot of cheap rings, mainly because after cancer, well, I had a double mastectomy back in 2020. And in that process, they removed some lymph nodes out of my left side. So that, as a result, my lymph, which is something I didn't even know existed until this process. Lymph is a liquid like right underneath the skin, and it moves around. It's part of the immune system, moves all around, and lymph will build up in places under some circumstances. Like if you see someone with swollen ankles, or if you have swelling in certain places, that's lymph that does that. So as a result, my regular wedding rings have not fit since then, even though I'm almost back to my pre-cancer weight. I have a few more pounds to go, but even still, like, I can't wear my wedding rings. So I have a couple cheap fake wedding rings. Those are good stitch markers. I wouldn't use my real wedding ring because that just feels like it's just too nice a ring to use as a stitch marker. What if it fell off? So cheap rings, that's a good option. My littlest daughter is, how to put this nicely? Is there a nice way to say that she's a hoarder? She loves garbage. She just wants to make stuff out of everything, or collect little collections of things. And her most recent collections are those pop tabs, you know, like a soda can tab. So she's got this pile of them and she's like, look, Mom, these are stitch markers. And I was like, that's actually not a bad idea. They're a good size. They're free. They are disposable. Like, they have a lot of good qualities. So a pop tab would make a good stitch marker. In a pinch, you can also make a circle of yarn and just use that. I have done that before too. Also, if you have a little scrap of paper, like from your knitting pattern, you can poke a hole in it with your needle and use that as a stitch marker. We're talking like desperate times call for desperate measures kind of things. I have used a key ring before. I have used an earring before. The kind that kind of opens up, has the open up clasp. What do you use for stitch markers other than actual stitch markers? What is your favorite go-to stitch marker? I have stitch markers in my shop if you're interested in those. But I have to say that one of my very favorite stitch markers are from Coco Knits. These are like I'm not sure what they're coated with, but they're a colored metal stitch marker. They're very pretty. They slide really nicely. I'm not even sure where to buy them. I've gotten them at yarn stores, but I don't even know where to buy them online. But I imagine you could Google it if you're interested in those. But right now, I'm feeling pretty good about pop tabs because frankly, right now I have a lot of them donated to me by a 7-year-old who likes garbage. So leave me a comment. Tell me what you love for stitch markers. What is your favorite thing? This week's topic of the week is the back and forth between the fashion design industry and knitwear design. As a designer, I take a lot of inspiration from fashion and what is in style right now. I have always been interested in fashion. In fact, I found this picture. I was doing a search of fall 2022 sweaters to see what was in for fall 2022. And I found this picture of these girls. I'm going to call them girls. They're young women, probably in their 20s. And they're wearing jumpers. And I had this exact jumper. I had one in pink and one in purple, corduroy, the exact jumper when I was 6. And they were my all-time favorite pieces of clothing, maybe ever. Now this one retails for $118, which I thought was a little bit crazy, but I loved it. I'm like, I think I need one of those. It's a little short. I'm a little too tall, and I do like things with a longer hemline these days. But otherwise, I really like this a lot. If it came to like just above the kneecap, I would be all in. Usually when I design something, it's what I want to wear personally. I tend to take my inspiration, like I said, from what's in style now, more than from what the knitting community is doing. I'm not sure why that is. I guess I feel like if you see a sweater that you like that someone has designed, go knit that one. But when I see something in fashion that is a machine knit sweater that a pattern doesn't exist for, I'm more interested to make a pattern for that, if it's something that people are interested in. So I think that there is a go-between. I think that fashion copies from us, and I think that we copy from fashion. I think that there is a give and take. When I was looking up, what's in fashion right now, I found a few Stephen West copycats. So here is Stephen West. This is kind of a quintessential Stephen West picture. Usually interestingly patterned leggings and a sweater or a shawl or lots of color. Very model-y, very artistic. Gosh, I love this man. I super want to meet him and be his best friend. I'm sure he has zero interest in being my friend, but I really want to be his friend. So as I was searching, I found some Stephen West copycats. Like, these people just want to be Stephen West, and you don't really know, which is the chicken and which is the egg and which of those two things came first. I don't know which preceded which, but these people reminded me of Stephen. Now, the Fair Isle trend has been very popular in the knitting community for a while. There are many knitters like Jennifer Steingass, whose pictures I'm showing right now. She is one of the many, many, many designers who knit Fair Isle sweaters. She tends to do 2 colors. I think I've put up a couple where she has more than 2 colors. But as I was searching for what is popular in 2022, I did find these examples of Fair Isle sweaters. There are lots of Fair Isle sweaters in fashion right now, and I personally am of the opinion that they got that from us. I think we were there first. Now, in this particular recent iteration of the Fair Isle sweaters, I've talked before about Edward, I think it's Edward, the king who abdicated, and George became the king, and Elizabeth, etc., that I talked about last time. He made Fair Isle really popular once again. And, this iteration is the one that I'm talking about, that I think the knitters came first and fashion took from us. Another trend that is very popular now is the loose-fitting, pajama-like, comfy trend. I love this trend. I think it's amazing. It reminds me of the 90s. The 90s was great. Basically, I was in high school and college for all of the 90s. So let's see, it was 92 through 2000. That was high school and college for me. So it was a great time. I think that this comes from COVID. I think we got really comfortable around COVID, and we just didn't want to wear tight clothes anymore. We wanted to be more comfortable. And a lot of people gained weight over COVID, and they just wanted to wear things that were a little bit looser and blousier. A few years ago, there was a trend in the knitting community for sweaters to have a wide body and slimmer sleeves. For example, my Inverness sweater, which is still one of my favorites. This is a great sweater, and this is a great style because it's very forgiving in the middle, but because the sleeves are slim, it doesn't make you look bulky, especially if you're wearing what was popular at the time, which is like skinny jeans. With that, it gives the look of slimness in the limbs where you have the bulkiness around the waist, which many of us would like to cover up. So that is a really convenient style. Now the style is more loose all over. So I went through and I just chose a couple of the most popular blousy, bulky patterns that are currently on Ravelry that you could knit right now if you want to. This one is called White Mountains by Midori Hirosa, I'm not sure how to say that, with perhaps my favorite model ever. Oh my gosh, I love this woman. I want her to be my model. She's fabulous. But this sweater is a perfect example of baggy all over, loose all over, looks very comfy. The second one that I wanted to highlight is the Wednesday sweater by Petite Knit, and many others by Petite Knit, such as the Ingrid sweater. And these are just 2 that I chose, but if you like this type of sweater where there's a lot of ease, she has lots of sweaters like this. Now she is tiny, I think. I don't actually even know how tall she is, although with a name like Petite Knit, she's probably not tall, but she's just very slim. And things that are very voluminous do tend to look good on people who are slim. If you are carrying weight anywhere, it is good to have a little more fittedness, in my humble opinion, because I think volume adds volume. So if you're trying to give the illusion of being slimmer, there are things that you can do, such as by having slimness in some places. Anyway, sweater number 21 by My Favorite Things is another example of a popular sweater pattern that is very voluminous. The Douglas Cardi by Andrea Mowry, very bulky, not in terms of the yarn being bulky, but the sweater itself is bulky. Very loose fitting, very comfortable, which is not typical for Andrea Mowry. She tends to do things that are more of a classic fit, I think. Venia by Isabel Kramer. Now this one is not super huge, and frankly, it fits like most of her sweaters do. It just has kind of a classic amount of ease. But this is a really popular one that I think does kind of follow that trend a little bit. Also, the Ulla sweater by Gregorina Fibers is also very kind of fluffy and soft and voluminous looking. While I'm talking, I'm just going to put up a couple pictures here of several examples from fashion of sweaters that are voluminous, like we have been talking about. Just oversized, big in the middle, big in the sleeves, long in the sleeves, kind of covering the hands, looking very pajama-like and comfortable. The kind of thing that you would want to wear if you were snuggled up on the couch, which, you know, a lot of us have been throughout COVID. Now, in my search, I also found other stranger, weirder trends, such as holes where no one would want a hole. I don't know why anyone would want a hole in the midsection. I definitely would not. No one who's ever had children or is carrying 5 extra pounds or whatever would want to have a hole there, I would think. I'm anti-hole, that's just me, but maybe you feel differently. Also, huge vest, no pants. Kind of strange. I feel like maybe she should be wearing some pants. I don't mind the vest or the big shirt, but maybe pants. And also, there are sweaters for those in the 3-arm community. Or if you only have 2 arms and want to show your solidarity for people in the 3-arm community, you can wear sweaters like this. That's the only thing I can come up with to explain this weird thing. All right, this week's word of the week is Yarny. Now, if you're wondering, what is a Yarny? A Yarny is a yarn groupie Yarny, like someone who is a connoisseur of yarn, someone who loves yarn. The Urban Dictionary defines Yarny as a person obsessed with all things yarn. They always have something yarn related on them. They are usually multi-craftual, such as knit, crochet, and weave. Does that not describe all of us? Pretty sure that's all of us. Now, granted, I am not currently wearing anything made of yarn, but that's only because I was a little bit hot after church, which I didn't wear anything made of yarn to church either, but it's not the season yet. I mean, you know, pretty soon it'll be the season. Now, here is a fun fact. I couldn't find the origin of the word Yarny. It's a recent word. I don't know who used it first. It feels like a natural thing that we would say, oh, that's just a very yarny person, somebody who really loves yarn. It's kind of obvious. But in my search for research on the word Yarny, I came up with this, which I thought was really interesting. Yarnies, its actual name, are a very effective fishing lure. When you're making a fishing lure out of yarn, a tight woven cotton or wool yarn is not the best choice for all of you anglers out there. Using natural fibers such as cotton means that it had to be dyed to the color it is, and those dyes can wash out, fade, or worse yet, give off smells that repel the fish. Don't want that. One other downfall for natural fibers is that they will soak up water and eventually sink. Natural fibers, no way for a Yarny fishing lure. So if you're making a Yarny, you want synthetic yarn that is made for fishing, often made of polyester or some other form of plastic, and the color is part of the plastic itself so that it won't fade or give off an odor. Fuzzy yarns, such as those often used to tie glow bugs, is a great material to make Yarnies out of. Not only does it have a high loft, but it comes in various fish-catching colors. Other yarns, like those used for tying flies, are best used as a color contrast when you want to tie in things like an eyed egg or a bright attractor. I guess if you fish, you know those words. Synthetic fibers don't soak up water, obviously. Plastic does not soak up water, but actually repel it, and this helps keep their loft, that's a word we knitters use, profiles, and they float around in the water just like natural bait does. Cool, right? I didn't know that. Did you know that? You know, I'm going to stereotype the people who are watching this podcast because you're probably like me. You're a woman, you're a knitter, and either your husband fishes or he does some other hobby like fishing. My husband does not fish, but he does have other hobbies that are like fishing. Do you have a husband who fishes? I will say, do you fish? Maybe you do. I don't fish. I don't think you fish, but you might. Maybe you fish. Did you know that a Yarny was also a fishing lure? Who knew? So much fun. All right, knitting fantasies. This week on Knitting Fantasies, I have decided to highlight only one pattern, partly because I've already mentioned a few other knitting patterns that are in fashion right now, and partly because this pattern is always on the front page of Ravelry. If you are not aware, when you go to Ravelry and you search patterns, it will take them, it will show, you can pick whatever order you want to see them in, but it will default to showing you the patterns that are the most popular right now onto the least popular. Whenever I put out a new pattern, I take note of how long my pattern stays on the front page. So the front page of Ravelry is like the most popular patterns right now. So this week, we're going to be talking about the Ranunculus. The Ranunculus is by Midori Hirose again. This pattern has been knit by tons and tons of people. I think there's a few reasons for that. First of all, it was free for a long time. Second of all, it offers it offers a huge spectrum of yarn that you can use to make it. It says from lace to worsted. So that would include lace, light fingering weight, sport, DK, or worsted. And there might even be more options in there that I didn't mention. So basically you can knit this, what was a free pattern, it is no longer free, but you can knit it in any of those yarns. Now she does list 1 gauge and 1 needle size, but basically I think if you're using a worsted weight yarn, you're gonna have a tighter weave. And if you're using like a lace weight, like a mohair, you're going to have a wholly kind of translucent sweater. While we're talking, I will be putting up pictures of people's ranunculi. It's probably Latin. So you can see the different variations of what people have done and what they've used. They're beautiful. This is a really, really beautiful sweater. It's another example of one that has a lot of Japanese, but I know a ton of people have done it, so it must be very friendly to English speakers also. First of all, I think that the main picture, which is a lovely young girl slumped over holding a leaf, is weird. I just think it's a weird picture, and every time I see it, I think, what a pretty sweater in such a weird picture. And there are other pictures of this girl wearing the sweater that are not weird. They're lovely. But for some reason, this weird picture is the front picture. Whatever. Just my opinion. I think that this is a really fashionable sweater, no matter what yarn you choose. Tons of people have mentioned this pattern to me. Lots of people have knit many of them. How many ranunculi have you knit? I bet if the answer is one, I bet it's more than one, because that's just what people do. Like, I think it's a really fun pattern to knit. I think it's got so much variation. And like I said, I think it was free. However, it's not free anymore, and it's still on the front page of Ravelry. Now it is €5.50, which I'm pretty sure the euro and the dollar right now are dead even. So it's about $5.50 if you are in the US. It comes in 11 sizes, huge range. Now, it is meant to have a ton of ease. The smallest size, the circumference, is 46. So if you have a 30-inch bust, that is 16 inches of ease. So the largest size goes up to 70.75 inches. So it has a very high range of sizes. But, you know, like I said, like we talked about, number one, it would be very comfortable because it has all that extra ease. It's very forgiving. It's very fashionable. So there's a lot going for it. There's a long sleeve option. There's a short sleeve option. She says to use 6mm US 10 circular needles for them as the main needle, and US 8 for the hem and the ribbing and whatnot. So she does not give a range of needles, but there is a gauge. It says 14 stitches and 20 rows over 4 inches. Interesting. You know, I would have to see. I've never tried to knit mohair with a needle that big. I think it would be cool. I think it might be a little bit difficult. Have you done it? Tell me about it. Tell me about your experience. I loved when I reached out to you guys about Stephen West patterns. And last week when I talked about Paula Emmons Feasley, and so many of you wrote to me about her, one woman left me a comment that was so helpful, I printed it. It had so many details about her retreats, and I'm like, I've got to print this out because I need to know all these ideas. But I love your comments. I love when you reach out and you know more about what I'm talking about than I do. That's great because I love learning more than I know now. That's always, always wonderful. So, moving right along. So here's what happened. I do not have a story for this week. I'm sorry. I just don't have one. If you have a knitting story and you would like to share it on the podcast, prop up your phone and take a little video of you telling the story, or you can type it out and send it to me. You can send it with pictures. I would love to share your story on the podcast. Whenever I don't have one, people love this segment. So whenever I don't have one, usually people are like, oh, I got to send one in. So please be that person and send me a couple. Everyone, send me a couple so that I'll have some for next week. I did want to share, someone sent me a video of, it was on the topic of historical knitting and wartime knitting, by a YouTuber whose name is Shannon Makes. After you're done with this podcast, which is just about right now, go on over to her channel and check out her videos. They are really good. I have not watched all of them. In fact, I've only watched part of one of them, but they look really good. She does a really good job putting the video together. And she talks about a lot of historical topics. So if you're here, you'll probably be interested in her too. So thank you so much for joining me. Send me a knitting story. Go check out the shop update. I would love to hear from you if you're interested in test knitting or whatnot. So, all right, I'll see you next week. Bye, knitters.